So Thabo Mbeki destroyed a lie that was repeated latest by Tokyo Sexwale in a recent interview. In this video, I'm going to show you how that goes down. But if you stay with me all the way till my biblical reaction and beyond, you'll probably get encouraged that South Africa will prosper. You ready? Okay, press like. Let's go. Let's take you to 2 years ago when former President Thabo Mbeki was painting a picture of South Africa.
There is a gentleman in South Africa, I'm quite sure that he's now fed up with me because I keep quoting him. He's CEO of the Institute of Race Relations. Last year, Dr. Endres gave a speech somewhere in the US about the future of South Africa. I think all of us should read that speech. It's very interesting and very educative about 30 years of democracy in South Africa. And Dr. Endres says this, that you can divide this history of 30 years into 3 ages. He calls it ages. As age 1, age 2, and age 3. And says age 1 is from 1994 to 2007. And age 2 is from 2008 to 2022. So Dr. Endres says, if you look at age 1, the country is going up all the time. He says if even you take the number of people employed, in 1994 you got 8 million people employed. By 2008 it's 14 million. To contest this assertion that is made, that this was a period of jobless growth. Because in fact there's enormous job creation during this period. The levels of unemployment dropped during this period. All manner of positive things. He gives all the detailed socio-economic figures to show this upward process. Then, as I was saying, he says age number 2 is from 2008 to 2022. And you have the direct opposite happens. So in these 30 years of democracy, we start off going this way, and from 2008 we could start going the opposite direction.
So the Dr. Endres that former President Mbeki was quoting was recently in a conversation with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi on the African Renaissance podcast.
What I'm saying.
Give me the ages.
Yes, okay.
Then we can cut to these to nodal points.
Okay,
yeah.
Very good. Okay, the ages story works like this. If you look at South Africa's history from 1994 to the present, you can see that there's like 2 very distinct types of periods in that time span. And that first period is from about 1994 to 2007, 2008. And the second period is from about 2008, round about to the present. Looking at the statistics, those 2 periods look very, very distinct. And to give you one example, the economic growth rate in the first age was 3.6% on average from 1994 to 2007. In the second age, that drops down to about 1%. So it's like less than a third of what it had been before. The ANC government inherited a debt from the apartheid government that was 50% of GDP. It did not repudiate that debt and say, that was not our fault, we're not going to pay it. They said, we're going to take that on. We accept responsibility because our government is, it's the successor government to the previous government. They accept the debt and they pay it down to 25% of GDP. So they halved the public debt effectively in 13 years, which is very impressive. That's like an impressive feat of macroeconomic management. But from 2008 to the present, the debt triples from 25% of GDP to 75, depending on how you calculate it, over 80% of GDP. When you look at the number of jobs created during that first period, the number of people with jobs almost doubled. And in the second period, we add under 1 million jobs for the entire 15-year period. And so what that means is that in the first period, life was actually getting better on average for people. More people had jobs, public services were being rolled out, the public finances were being responsibly managed, jobs were being created. But during the second period, the economy wasn't growing anymore, it wasn't creating jobs anymore. The unemployment rate kept going up, the public debt was going up, and the outcomes were not good for the country. And that brings us to this point where we are today, where it looks like we're going to enter a third age. And the question is, what does that look like? And that's what we're thinking about very hard at the Institute, trying to figure out where's our country going next.
The first age, one of the points you make is around human settlement.
2 black people who'd been deprived of those services during apartheid was very notable. And that included housing, as you've mentioned, but it also included electricity, for example. It included water. It included, roads and transport. In all of these areas, a lot more access was being given in parts of the country that didn't have access to these services before. And I think that was recognized by the recipients as well. So if you look at the ANC's 2004 election result, that was incredible.
Yeah.
That was 69.7%.
And it had the highest voter turnout since.
Yeah. In the first election of 1994, Nelson Mandela was the candidate. And it's hard to imagine a more charismatic, personality. But Thabo Mbeki in 2004 exceeded the vote share which Nelson Mandela himself got in 1994. And why? How could Thabo Mbeki get more votes than Nelson Mandela? And the reason is because the government was actually performing pretty well. Those services were being rolled out. People were getting electricity, water, houses, access to education, access to healthcare.
Wow, but just over 2 weeks ago, ANC stalwart Tokyo Sexwale was at SMWX in a conversation with Dr. Sizwe Mpofu Walsh, and this is what he said.
Your time in cabinet, your time in the Zuma cabinet, we know you as the premier, we know you as a business person. What are your recollections of serving in that cabinet as an important minister for human settlements?
And we were doing our work. I was doing mine as the first minister of human settlements, because it was housing before then.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that work, to build houses for my people, not mkukunyana, to change their lives and to try to close the divide between the village and the town, Soweto and Johannesburg, because it's open. And to do the best for our people from my side. And I saw other cabinet members, fellow comrades, doing their work as well, to the best of their ability. The president was very open because he was not playing clever. And he's a good listener. That's why Zuma is being followed by other people. He's a people's person. He's got the people's touch. I don't know if he's running the MK properly. The jury's out of that one. But yet the people's touch, and we did so many and so much. But saving that government. By the 3% growth rate was there even under Mbeki.
Oh yeah, even higher.
Yeah, even higher.
Yeah.
Now, but it's just that the problem, and when you talk about that growth rate at that time, it was jobless growth. Okay, capital was growing, but it was not empowering everybody. But of course, it's a good start. We had to be there.
It was jobless growth. Now, this is not invented by Mr. Sexwale, and he's not the first person to say it. COSATU, Communist Party, that used to complain about gear and Asgisa. The leftists kept saying, there's growth, we don't care, because it's jobless growth. It's growth that only helps them, but doesn't help them. But then Mbeki says, no such a thing. Endres says, no such a thing. But now, just 3 weeks ago, Frans Cronje, he used to be the leader of the Institute for Race Relations. He's now the chairperson of the Common Sense. He was at the State of the Nation breakfast with Mike Sham. And so I want you to see this, because when you see it, it looks even better.
I was saying to Bonza Shongwe now that the first thing we've got is that public opinion is completely moderate and centrist and pragmatic. And if you apply, I said to Mr. Shongwe, if you apply time to that, it actually becomes very difficult to know whether the outlook for us is to crash or, in fact, to take off, because the hand of cards we've been dealt, it's actually quite easy to play to great success, which is useful context to where I'm taking you here. That off the left-hand axis is the share of families that go to bed every evening without electricity. And when the ANC came to power, that was about 49% of families. And 13, 14 years after that, as Thabo Mbeki is getting ready to pack it in, the number is under 20%. And there are no emerging markets that can compete at scale with what the ANC achieves here in terms of service delivery in its first 15 years in office. But the second period, things stagnate or slow down, and then they begin to reverse. On top of that, off the right-hand axis, real per capita GDP, so all the wealth generated in the economy divided by the number of people, adjusted for the rate of inflation. And there's a very strong lift into 2008. And then the stagnation, and now for the better part of a decade in real terms, we've become a bit poorer. So a useful way to start thinking about what goes on here is this concept of these two very distinct eras that we've been through. A great window into those eras, a sort of corroborating window, is this. It's 30 years of data, and then off the left-hand axis, the total number of people in employment. And on day one for the ANC, it's 8 million. And halfway along, let's say 2008, Thabo Mbeki's packing it in. That's doubled, and it's almost 15 million people. So the thesis of jobless growth, like that of failed service delivery, was just complete nonsense and never happened. And the reason why these private media things like Mike's One and are so important is that the quality of the analysis on these third-party private media platforms is much higher than what you see in the mainstream that fed you failed service delivery and jobless growth through the first 15 years of ANC rule, the facts entirely to the contrary. However, if you draw your eye across into the present, we've got about 17 million people in jobs. So we added about 2 million jobs to the economy over the period of around 15 years. Off the right-hand axis, this becomes really stark. It's the total net number of new jobs created per annum during the time in office of each of these people. So Mr. Mandela and Mr. Mbeki, they were doing about this off the right-hand axis, 500,000 net new jobs a year. Jacob Zuma cut that in half to 250, but Mr. Ramaphosa has struggled to hold the number north of 100,000. Off the right-hand axis, ANC and national elections. The first one, if you kind of draw your eyes across the right, they're at 63. 5 years later, we vote again, 66. 5 years after that, they're at almost 70. And the reason is that life in South Africa is improving so very, very fast, and at such an extraordinary degree. And all the nonsense about liberation, loyalty, voting, my career started then, and I was luckily in the team of some really capable people. All this liberation, loyalty voting doesn't exist at all. ANC support was lifting because they were doing a hell of a good job at raising the basic standards of living of millions and millions of people. And the flip side of that is what you saw in the number falling down to 50, which is the point I made to you earlier, that our democracy actually works as it was intended, that if the country's not well governed, people will start to do something about that, which they have done. And and countries can change violently or peacefully, and there's no middle ground. And we're in the fortunate minority of post-colonial economies that when they get into some trouble, the change process is completely peaceful, and a lot of places would bite your arm off to get that.
So there you have it. The numbers tell us that when there was growth, everyone did better, and they responded by voting for the one who gave them growth. And when growth stopped, things started to become uncertain, and people stopped voting for the person who wouldn't give them economic growth. I find in many circles in the country that many people have a problem with growth. The first time that the ANC came under a lot of heat was with Thabo Mbeki's gear policy, growth, employment, and redistribution. And they had a problem. How do you put redistribution after growth? And then when Zuma came in, his policy was the new growth path. We know growth is terrible, so let's call it new growth path. While Gear had growth will create jobs, the new growth path of Jacob Zuma was that no, we want jobs more importantly than growth. Guess what? Never got the jobs. Under Mandela and Mbeki, 500 jobs per year, 500,000 jobs per year. And they had a policy that didn't speak bad about growth. We then come to Zuma, who has a policy that basically speaks badly about growth, halved jobs. Ramaphosa then comes in. The Ramaphosa administration dislikes growth so much that they must put an adjective before growth and say it's inclusive growth, not the evil growth, but the inclusive growth. Well, it seems that Ramaphosa's inclusive growth has pretty much excluded people from having jobs, and they have to rely on his 370 rands. This anti-growth sentiment is very un-African. The one phrase that every Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele speaker knows is Ugwanda Gwaliwa Umthakathi. Literally, it means only a witch opposes growth or abundance or expansion, and it's linked closely to calling someone out for envy. In African thinking, Umthakathi, a witch, is not so much focused on their spiritual powers, but more on their envy. You can say, hey, don't be Umthakathi, which means don't be envious. The spirit of envy, according to African thought, dislikes growth. And so what really happened is that the seed of envy, which is in ANC ideology, finally bloomed, and it actually destroyed the progress that was being made under the ANC. Now, anyone who knows me will know that I don't like the ANC, and I'm not amongst those who say it can be saved, because it can't. Envy is in the ideology, so of course the seed must become a bush, and there is no way to reverse it and get ANC to get those levels of growth and get back to 51%. I disagree with people who think that is possible. And so before I show you what we're doing about it, my biblical reaction. These 6 things the Lord hates, yes, 7 are an abomination to him. Let's go to 6 and 7. A false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among brethren. In fact, those two tend to always go together. Why do people start spreading lies? Because it is a lie, or it's a misrepresentation of facts at a very high level, that there's jobless growth, jobless growth, jobless growth. Well, a big reason for it is because it is good for sowing discord among brethren. It's all the people who have a very strong worldview of sowing discord between black and white, sowing discord between rich and poor, sowing discord between company owners and company employees, sowing discord between the haves and have-nots. They're the ones who pushed the lie, the false witness of jobless growth. And it was based on this. There's growth, but you know what? You should realize he gets more from the growth. Sowing discord. Ugwanda Gwaliwa Umthakathi. Umthakathi, to sabotage growth when you know that at least 5 million people, as you watch this video, are living in a shack when they could have been living in a house where they are paying a bond and life is much different for them. But they are on 370 in a shack because these people sabotage growth with lies and sowing discord, always making sure to weaponize apartheid so that people stay angry and blacks must hate whites, always weaponizing. The capitalists are making all the profits and the workers are exploited, sowing discord. We need to take the land and scare away all the investors, sowing discord at the expense of growth. while ukwanda kwaliwa umthakathi. One of the things we're doing in the soft life, that's why the book is about the soft life, which helps people understand what happens when the economy grows, and also to be aware of what are the lies and the sowing of discord to rile up your envy, to rile up your anger, to spark victimhood in you, and how that witchcraft is actually in the way of the soft life. We've been distributing copies just to test with that market that we're going after, and I was pleasantly surprised just now recently just how many people really get to read it, enjoy it, and get it. In fact, I went and stole a quick interview with someone who actually says that the part that impacted them the most was when the book exposed how people sow discord and how that's used to control.
Okay, so I'm here with Chuku and the Soft Life. Hola.
Hola, money.
Hey, Tada, tell me, how did you find the book? How was it for you?
It was interesting, money, especially when it comes to our government, how it lacks money.
Yeah.
Government, he means politicians.
Money.
We lacking, Khotman.
Yeah. These
people have no truth.
Yeah. So that's the
some part they kulumang batin le party le ANC AEDA it was owned by, it was led by
a black guy, almost my man. Yeah.
It was like seen by a puppet.
Yeah.
It was true, man.
Yeah, then they say it's a puppet because it's a black guy.
It's a black guy. How can a black guy lead the party?
Yeah. Also, that's the one party
Yes, Khotman, that part hit me. And those of you who read The Soft Life know what he's talking about there.
Yeah. Long at all. But what would you say to someone who wants to read the book but they haven't got it yet?
The advice
The advice that I can give them is that they must read The Soft Life.
Yeah.
Knowledge, how
so they can get knowledge.
People treat us, they control us.
Yeah.
Because these people want to control us.
Yeah.
So they can understand how life really works, Khotman.
Now.
I'm with you, boy. Aye, we together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, so clearly, guys, all of you in these signatures, and if you're not one of them, you can check at the bottom and up here now. Consider being part of the Prosperity Catalyst Fund. The message is really getting across. The comprehension is just fine. The conversation I had off camera was less shy, and I was pleasantly happy with just how many concepts that he grasped in the book and how much he had messed it up from reading it over and over, and said he really enjoyed it. So we're very happy it's working, and now we're gonna roll out with more confidence, knowing that South Africa will prosper. So I had to share that with you because that was one of the highlights of my week. So no man can serve two masters. Either you love the one or hate the other, or you'll despise the one and honor the other. You cannot serve God and Karl Marx. Karl Marx says, be driven by envy, anger, resentment. God says, be driven by vision, faith, and love. You can't do both. So let's make history together. Cheers.